Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Contemporary Issue Sunday School class. Good turnout today. I wasn't sure how many people would want to talk about voting, how to choose wisely your candidates, and we'll talk a little about voter behavior today. Timely topic with this year being election year and election season right now. But before we do that, I want to introduce myself. I'm Steve Baska, the leader of the class. I want to welcome Jeannie and her husband, your first timers with us. Thank you for coming today. And Zoomers, welcome to you. Our usual announcements. Zoomers, please mute yourself in the lower left corner of your screen when you're not talking, but we do want you to chime in whenever you have a question or a comment. And we are recording this for future playback on YouTube for those who want to watch later. And announcement, when we talk about political topics, as we will today, we do not make endorsements in this class or this church of any candidates. And we want to be respectful of both sides of the political aisle. And so please refrain from any mean-spirited comments about either candidate, although it's so easy to do. Good, yes.
Make faces.
No. No, please refrain from that. Morally.
Steve, I have an administrative question.
Yes.
I check in online using the app. And
Okay.
there's one where it says you can check into contemporary issues. So if we do that on the app, do we also need to do it on the paper? I'm thinking no.
No,
Okay.
no, that's just, the paper that's going around is just to sign up if you want to be on our email list. And then the church also tracks attendance in classes. So they report that to the powers that be with the Methodism, and I'm not sure what all comes from that. That's what our sign up is for. Yes, okay, other announcements. Alice has one.
Okay, Vacation Bible School for Seniors. Sign up today, tomorrow, or Tuesday. Then they cut it off because we need to know how many people to prepare lunch for. So, yes.
What is this light exercise about?
About like that.
Probably chair
It's
exercise.
at lunchtime.
Okay.
You're-
We're gonna run a place or do
Probably
anything.
not,
Okay.
probably not. No, come join us. I'm going on Wednesday and Friday, and there are gonna be Jerry and other Pat, Amy are gonna speak about the future of the Methodist Church and other issues that will be quite interesting. So
Past,
It should be-
current, and future, right?
past, present, and future
Yes,
covers it all.
yes.
Sounds good. Okay. All right. Also, let's see, any quick sharing of what things people have been doing, highs and lows from this week? Vicky and I had a high and low. One of my college roommates drowned this week scuba diving in Belize. And something about the air in the tank was bad at 60 feet. And so, it's sad when that happens. So they're investigating the accident now. But then we had a high on Thursday night. We went to see the Rolling Stones at that was fun. Yep, you can't always get what you want.
But you can get what you need.
That's,
How about give
That's
us
it.
shelter?
that's right.
Well,
That's fun.
Back in February, Lola and I went to the Eagles,
Oh, we saw.
No,
They're still going.
No.
All these guys are pushing 80 or and they are still rocking. That's right. I want to take a second and recognize Mason and Colleen, who just got back from the Camino walk in Spain with Red Mar. Walking up to 19 miles a day. Tell us just briefly how it was. Good experience?
It was a wonderful experience. You had a devotional every morning with Reverend Mark. Everybody walked at your own pace, just absolutely not a race. A lot of times folks, you could catch a cab, but if you were getting really tired or something like that, which a few people did. The longest day, like you said, was 18 to 19 miles. That was a pretty brutal day because it got hot near the end. There was some pretty
Wow.
hills, so, it was a really good experience, I would say.
Great. And Mason was sharing with me that he had to backtrack, one day he had to backtrack 2 miles to
Oh,
go back to a store and get his passport.
Oh.
He left his- So he added 4 miles onto that day.
That was about an hour and a half of the panic.
Yeah. But-
That was the race part, right?
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful though.
It would, I recommend it, you know, and you can go at your own pace. And you meet some many interesting people. We met a group of people
Boise.
from Ireland.
Oh, Ireland.
And we got to talk, and she said, how do you say tomato? And I said, we say tomato. I mean, it was just,
Yeah,
just funny things that you
Yeah.
like talk about.
Yeah.
We met a retired US Marshal from Miami, and I mean, you just meet
That's neat.
really interesting people. from
All over the world. They're all,
And then to go to the cathedral in Santiago,
Oh.
it's really an experience.
Can I
Norley,
ask if you ate a lot of tuna?
Tuna?
Tuna, I heard that everybody has tuna like day over day over day.
I understand.
Oh, that salad, the salad, a lot of
Yeah,
tuna
salad.
and paella.
Yeah, she said a lot of.
Did I say it right?
Uh-huh.
Man.
Great orange juice.
great orange juice. Okay. Great, okay. Any other announcements? Wine, Vicky's talking about wine. Okay. Any other announcements or recommendations or things to do before we jump into this? Okay. All right, let's talk about voting. Today, we're not talking about individual candidates and where they stand, anything about that, which we do sometimes, of course, in election seasons and kind of nonpartisan cover what their positions are, but that's not today. Today, we're just going to talk about why we choose, what criteria we choose for choosing candidates, and how we really vote sometimes too, more emotional than rational, of course. So we'll cover that. But first, I like this little graphic. I thought that was good on the internet, saw that one. Your vote is the center of the democracy donut. It is very important. That's what it's referring to. And if you cut it out, you're cutting out an important part. You're having a donut hole. And just a little bit of trivia before we start here. Your vote does make a difference. A couple of the closest elections in history. Does anybody know? Can you pull out of your memory closest elections in history? 1960, John Kennedy won the presidential election by a margin of less than 1 vote per precinct. One vote. I remembered it was close with Nixon, but not that close.
Wow.
And then in 68, Nixon won the presidency by a margin of less than 3 votes per precinct, too. Who did, was that McGovern?
Humphrey?
Humphrey, okay, that's right.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, okay. A little bit extra trivia. The elections, several elections of 2018, 20, and 22 were 3 of the highest turnout elections in decades. About 2/3, 66% of the eligible voters turned out in the 2020 presidential election, the highest rate of any national election since 1900, 120 years, 66%. Before that, it was about 49%. So that was energized. Obviously, it was a very energizing election like this one will be. But still, isn't it sad that 66% of people vote in America that are eligible to do it?
You know the reason? Do they give reasons for why they don't vote?
Sure. I didn't delve into those this time, but yeah, there are people who just are not engaged. Yeah,
Well, I
It's
think
in
a lot of
America.
people, I've heard people say, I don't vote because it won't make a difference.
yeah.
You know, it's like apathy maybe. My vote won't make a difference on.
I had a friend that
And-
said they didn't vote because they didn't like either candidate.
Right.
There's a lot of that. Yes, Jim.
Have you heard of any numbers, the relative growth in voting since, early voting, has been initiated, at least in Colorado.
I haven't heard the
There
numbers,
was something,
but-
I can't remember what.
But I know that has encouraged more to sign up and vote. Because something like 90% in Colorado of voting is done by mail.
Yeah.
Now, very few people show up on election day anymore. Isn't that right, Ron?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah.
One other little thing, by race. Black, Hispanic, and Asian voters are still the majority Democratic voters. Blacks especially, in the last election voted 93% for the Democratic candidates for US House. Only 5% of blacks voted for Republican candidates, although the Republicans are trying to change that. Hispanic and Asian voters vote less for Democratic candidates, but are still a majority. 60% of Hispanics vote for Democrats and 68% of Asian voters. But both parties are trying hard to capture more of those demographics. Okay. I want to share and have us talk about a handout that I've got here about basic ways to choose candidates to vote for. And this comes from a variety of sources. I just kind of coalesce this down into 6 basic pieces of advice. The first one that seems to always show up is look at the positions on the issues. Why the candidate, what the candidate wants to do on issues that you care about. For example, immigration, abortion, or the economy. Do their desires align with your desires? Doesn't it seem like that's what most of us look for when we look for positions that candidates have? We're looking for those that reflect our own desires. Number 2, promises. Do they make realistic promises of what they can achieve? Or do they not promise at all? Do they set goals and priorities? And this one on promises didn't really show up until the last 4 years because of Trump's promise probably on the wall. And not only that he was going to build a wall is his number 1 promise, but that Mexico was going to pay for it. And so on the internet now, this is showing up more often to see how the promises are working out. And let me read to you just a couple of the broken promises, not to mention Trump or Biden recently, but broken promises through history. Is kind of enlightening. 1916, Woodrow Wilson, his supporters had the main slogan, "He'll keep us out of the war," only to have America enter the war 1 year after he was elected. Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964 promised, "We are not about to send American boys 10,000 miles away where Asian boys ought to be doing this war for themselves." That was his quote. But we ended up doing that. Gerald Ford was the only president to never be elected, so he never made any campaign promises or break. I thought that was wise. Jimmy Carter's top priority was solving the energy crisis. But he was unable to get support for a gas tax, and the energy problem only worsened during his presidency, and he made no progress on his main topic. Ronald Reagan promised a constitutional amendment allowing prayer in schools to come back. Although he promised the amendment in 1982, it never went anywhere. George H.W. Bush famously promised in 1988 taxes, only to sign a bill raising taxes during his first and only term. Bill Clinton campaigned to renovate the healthcare system. Although he attempted Hillary Care, it ended in failure. And George W. Bush promised to change the tone in DC, change the tone, and privatize Social Security and reduce government spending, none of which he was able to do either. So much for promises. Let's stop there for a second before we go on to the other 4. What do you think about positions on issues and promises? Is that important to you? Are they among your top things that get your attention?
Yes.
Linda says yes.
I
Okay.
think setting goals is better than making promises.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I would paraphrase Alice and say, don't make a promise, say, I will work towards.
Yeah,
Right. That's good.
Yeah.
that's the goal.
That's usually about the best you can do.
That's good.
I think you should call
But
it.
they have to have the Congress be able to pass
Right.
something.
That's
before they can
Yeah.
sign it.
Yes.
And if they don't get Congress to do it.
So making a promise makes no sense when
Right.
you have somebody else that really controls whether you can achieve. Yes, yes, I think George was first and then Norton.
Yeah.
The promises that I've seen are usually depends on who they're making the promises to.
Yes. Uh-huh.
If Biden wants to encourage all the union people in the east, then he's got promises he's gonna make. Promises he's gonna make. I can't remember what it was that Trump was saying, but he'd only say that to
Sure,
that particular group.
sure. And then there are the private promises that they make to groups behind the scenes. You support me, I'll do this for you. Tit for tat, that never becomes public nor legal.
Yeah, just thinking to add what you've been saying, that it could be very demographic. I know. That it could be very demographic based, like I'm thinking about student loan forgiveness, would be very important to a particular part of, our nation. And that because we've been there and done that,
Yeah.
the promises probably mean less, but for people who are a little bit younger and more idealistic, a promise might be super helpful.
Very good. Okay, let's go on to the next four recommendations. Character and personality. It's another one that's risen up in the last 4 years to a higher position. Is the person honest, moral, respectful of others, timid or aggressive in personality, and can they work with others well? Do they seem well informed and articulate, able to describe the issues they're dealing with? Next one, experience and ability. Does the person have government or business experience? Have they shown ability to succeed in those areas? Do they still have the mental and physical ability to succeed in coming years? Very relevant. Yes. And the last two, endorsements. What organizations such as gun organizations or environmental Sierra Club and the media have endorsed this person and why? Do we still pay attention to those? That has any sway with you? Not like it used to, 100 years ago, newspapers really, their endorsements really carried weight. They would, a lot of people would just follow those and say, I can't research and evaluate as much as newspaper editors are able to, so they relied on them, but not so much anymore.
I think it depends on who it is that's running and who it is that's supporting them. It's not a blanket, doesn't apply anymore. I mean, I've seen a couple recently, it's like, oh, okay, I might vote for him because of such and so, rather than the other candidate.
Yeah.
So,
I also think that in years past, people were more dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, that's Republican. My father, I've always said this, would have voted for Hitler if they put him up to run by his party, because he believed in his party, and he trusted whoever they.
Dog Democrat.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about that in a minute. about Ways that we really vote, including party line voting. Just go down the ticket. Yep. And the last one here, pro and con list. Some people like to make a list of the pros and cons for each candidate. And especially we've seen that, this last election, Biden and Trump have such strong pros and cons, each of them, pros and cons, that I've seen some people doing that. And how does that help? Who knows? But,
Nothing,
Yeah.
you know,
what,
it's
Becky?
better than nothing. I mean,
Yes.
If you don't know the three, you know, what are you gonna check? Usually they check the top one, so
Uh-huh.
it's better to, you know.
Absolutely. Okay. And while we're doing the handouts, let's look at the second handout, League of Women Voters. Folks online, I'm sorry, I don't have this to show you online, but I'll just read it to you. League of Women Voters Guide suggests evaluating stands on the issues, evaluating leadership abilities. Look at a lot of the same things we've already covered. Look at the candidate's background and experience. They say also learn how other people view the candidates, opinions of others in your circles. Talk with them and ask their opinion when you can do it without an argument. Yeah. Find out where candidates get the funds to finance their campaigns.
Good luck with that.
Do they use their own?
That's a big
Mhm,
Question.
that's good. Yes.
Oh, thank you. I attended a meeting of a political party this week. And one of the things that I was intrigued by is there is, at least Colorado, a database called Tracer, where you can find out about who is in the we're saying, or who is providing campaign funds to a particular candidate. So it's called TRACER, and it's, I think, Colorado.us. I don't know, do you know about the Tracer program?
Don't know that specific.
Okay, but you can find out, and they'll give you, you know, pretty graphics and other things. The only thing is, they can do hard money, soft money, but not dark money. Dark money being where you have no idea what the group is by its name, it's very generic, so you don't know the individuals who are supporting them.
Which is now the majority of the money going to campaigns.
That's-
Yes, Linda, right.
Uh,
Grant.
when in car racing, they put the supporters of the, you know, like SCP or.
Yeah.
I wish we could have that somewhere. Who is on the, well, not on the ballot, but on their, yeah, who's sponsoring them?
Yeah,
And they have to wear that on their jacket.
I'll wear that on their, when they're on the house floor. Yeah. Yes. Yes. There was one, this week, there was one billionaire, I believe, that gave $50 million to Trump. And I guess that's not always disclosed, but this one was for some reason, but what a huge donation, 50 million at once.
Hey, okay, sure.
Incredible. The last,
Promised.
that's what we never know. Yeah,
No.
right.
I was just,
Ann, go
I
ahead.
don't know if I'm making this up or not, years ago, I thought the Supreme Court, I don't agree with this, said you can contribute as much money as you want to a campaign. There was no limits, and I think, what a mistake.
There was a Supreme Court decision on that, but there are also some kinds of limits, so it's a murky.
There are to we the people, but is there, I'm asking the question, is there a limit that anybody else other than we the people, corporations, etc., are limited on what, because you can buy any vote anywhere, anytime. If there's no limit, it seems to me it would be so appropriate if we were limited to X amount of thousands of dollars per person, per corporation, and limit the campaigning to 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 years.
Like the British do, yes.
I thought the British was 1 week.
Is it? Whatever it is.
But in HD 43, which if you live in this area, there are limits.
Yeah.
Campaign.
Would be
I mean,
national.
Yeah, people running for the Colorado House of Representatives or the Colorado Senate. I think it's roughly a little over $400 for the,
Yeah, the state offices, it's.
Don't you think it should be national? Heck with this state stuff. This is a federal election. It should be federally run, not state run. Sorry.
but there's ways to get around it too. You can find,
Well, that's what's happening.
Found your own private organization and call it
Happening.
Citizens for Love, Mercy and Patriotism. And end up doing about anything you want with your money.
Federal election, federal
Very good.
election. It all should be federally operated. Come on, folks.
Okay, Ann, you run for office. We'll vote for you. Good point. The last few suggestions by the League of Women Voters is be a poll watcher. Opinion polls can accurately evaluate different candidates, but we have to ask who's giving the poll, what questions do they ask, how many people were included in the polling, and don't always believe polling because we've seen that they don't turn out to be accurate in so many cases.
Look at the 2020 election, the polls there in the 2022, the midterms, you know, the red wave.
Yes,
Or triple, maybe. They were wrong.
yes.
People came out and they were wrong. So, yeah, and polls are, I don't know who they're talking to. Nobody's talked to me. Glad to give them quite an earful.
Did anybody ever get a phone call asking or a text asking for them?
Oh,
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah,
They say that.
and each party does the Republican Party does its own polling and the Democrats, and yes, all of that.
That's the nature of polling. It depends on who's willing to answer. If you hang up, then you're not going to be reflected in the poll. Well, the thing that I worry about is, and I don't even answer, is it actually a poll person or are they trying to scam me
Yeah.
by knowing that I don't answer any of them.
That's right.
I mean, you can't, you don't know what's true and what's not. I just don't. 'Cause
We don't know what.
if they get one iota of a yes, they can use your voice.
You don't know who it is and
I
what
don't.
they're using it for.
I just.
So true. The last couple are rate the debates, be a debate watcher.
Yeah,
And
this week.
understand the questions. Yes, does everybody know that this Thursday is the first of the two presidential debates? And they will have a muted microphone and no audience.
Yeah.
So we can see. I think most of us are tuning in to see how that's gonna work out. At least as- Yeah, at least as much as they, Yes. I know. And then the last thing is, then after you do all this and you vote, then be an advocate. Back the candidate you believe in. Talk to people about your candidate. Volunteer for their organization, register to vote, and then on election day, be sure to vote. So that's a lot of.
I think there was
reminders.
a time when that was safer to do than it is right now.
Yeah. To work for a candidate?
No, not necessarily to work for one, but to be an advocate in the way of just, you know, talking in a group of people, because it's pretty easy to judge your audience anymore, and not everybody hangs out with people that vote the same way. You know, so you have to learn to be congenial, you know, like we have diplomatic. We have some friends that are very good friends, but they just don't go there. They just can't, you know, so I just don't think it's that easy.
I think it's harder today to talk politics with people than it used to be
Oh,
generations ago.
Yeah.
Has anybody noticed that the bumper stickers are gone?
It's a good point. We haven't seen as many bumpers. Yeah.
I would put a sign in my yard, but I don't want my house to be egged. I mean, there's some violence against people and.
Yes.
A friend of mine, their neighbor kept stealing their signs and I think called the cops and then they went and talked to the neighbor and said, this is a crime. And so it stopped. But, you know, if you put up there, I'm for, you know, Joe Blow for president, whatever, you know, you don't know what's gonna happen.
Right.
I mean, look at the
Right.
people who
There was
serve on
sticker
juries
painted
and
on your garage
judges,
door.
the people that have security 24 hours, 24/7, and that's such a sad commentary on where we are now.
Yeah,
Think about Judge Alito's wife.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
someone of that stature getting involved with a
Yes.
neighbor going back and forth.
Yes.
Just absolutely, it floors me
Yeah.
that she would not know better.
Right.
And if she was doing it and it came to his attention, he would not
Yeah.
advise
Get
her
involved.
to stop.
Yeah.
yeah.
So this stifles discussion.
Yes.
Even in, you know, you were saying with your friends, you're not able to tell something, learn what they are thinking, why they are that way. You just don't talk about it. We were on a trip with Overseas Adventure Travel. The first thing the tour guide said was, there will be no discussion of politics.
Wow.
Thanks.
I-
And the 19 of us that went ended up being very compatible, but it was a very mixed group.
Uh-huh.
We had Muslims, Jews, Catholics, Protestants, etc.
But how interesting the guide would specifically say that. It's amazing. Yes, amazing.
So Colleen had an experience, I guess.
Louder.
Louder.
Colleen had an experience Friday night, I guess it was one of her friends, but they started talking about politics and I guess the friend, we won't mention names, but
Right.
said that, well, my father says this, and not to bring up names, but the only reason Biden wants to get elected is so he can pardon his son from these 3 felonies or whatever, and what else?
And I said, I absolutely did not believe that. And it's going back to one of these very important points, that the character and personality of the candidate is most important to me right now. And I said, I did not believe that Biden would ever do that, because he's already said, I will not pardon my son.
Yes, I said he won't cook community sense stuff.
There's always loopholes.
Good example, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it was
that's-
just, and it just made the whole evening, we're out to dinner, made the whole evening become so tense.
So you can't have a logical,
No.
intelligent, here's why I think
No.
about this
You
issue.
can't
Because
discuss it
then
like
these,
that.
these other issues come in, and then it gets to be a shouting match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be big enough to just be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad we can do that in here.
You're trying, Steve.
Oh, that's right. No, I mean, we do a good job of that. I'm very proud of us. We're able to do that. Oh, thank you, Ann. I want to give our Zoomers a chance to weigh in. If you've got a comment about anything we've said so far, is character more important to you than positions on issues? Or are positions the most important thing? Would anybody like to chime in?
No.
Susan?
Well, issues are most important to me. And my list of issues is constantly changing and growing and developing as I learn more. But also, there have been times when, I mean, there was one time when I voted for the party that I'm not part of, because the candidate that my party put up was just so horrible that in good conscience, I couldn't vote for them. And so character is really important, and competency. Yeah.
Good point. Thank you.
Well said.
Well said. Would there ever be a case where you could vote for a candidate of horrible character, moral character? Even though he had positions you think would be better than his opponent?
No.
Helen says no.
I agree.
That's number one with anything, really.
Character is for you?
It really
Okay. We have friends, Vicky and I, who say, for example, we wish Trump acted better, but he is so right on the issues that we're gonna vote for him anyway. We're gonna hold our nose and vote for him because he supports life, he keeps immigration under control. Those are the important things, and that's where our country needs to go. That's their opinion. Yes.
So I sometimes try to equate it to the medical field. We've had people say, well, this doctor is the best. but he is terrible bedside manner.
Yeah.
I said, I don't care, I want the best.
Yeah.
And
right.
so when I look at competence and, I think character sometimes is more subjective. And frankly, these people that we were told had terrible bedside manner, we thought they were fine. Kind of depended on your expectations.
Good
I guess.
analogy.
But I kind of look at that too in politics sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, that's social skills rather
That's,
than
uh-huh,
character.
yeah, but that's interesting. Susan, go ahead.
If any of you know Doris Kearns Goodwin?
Yes.
Okay.
Historian.
Yeah, she actually is the sister of a docent at the Denver Art Museum, and I'm also a docent. And so we've heard Doris has come on several occasions to speak. But she was asked once, because she has studied the life of 4 or 5 presidents to an extreme extent and written about them. And she was asked, what did she consider the most important attribute? And she named the different presidents and what they were known for, but she said, above all, one stands out for his character. She said that is the absolute most important attribute a president in that position should have, and that was Lincoln. And so I think that's because we look to a president, not just to be competent, but to show us who we should be as people. And so I just think because she's so knowledgeable and has done such research, that stuck with me.
Yeah.
She said that.
Theme of rivals. Uh-huh.
Haven't given presentations in this class on Adam Kinzinger's book
Oh,
and, who's the lady?
Liz Cheney.
Liz Cheney. I can say that although I disagree with their positions on many issues, I came away after reading your books and studying them to have tremendous respect for the character. Their character ratings in my mind are way up here. And that means a lot.
Okay.
Well, you see what happened to Lincoln.
Okay. Steve said, we know what happened to Lincoln. With his good personality, it rubbed people the wrong way too, but that always happens. Linda.
As a ex-lawyer and lobbyist, one thing that I look at very carefully is respect for the rule of law and respect for the principles of the Constitution. And as a Christian, the principles of Christianity, what would Christ do?
Yes.
So those weigh into my evaluation of candidates.
Well said. Okay. Let's talk for a minute about how we really vote, not just how we should, but how maybe even the majority of people really vote. Number one is by emotion. We emotionally react to the person, the candidate's personality, obviously, and make a snap judgment that way. Do we like them or do we not like their personality and their leadership style over their positions often? Number two, go ahead. Sorry, Grant, go ahead.
I've worked one time with a person that was very similar to Trump. I couldn't work with him. I couldn't work with him. I left. Said, I'm out of here. I can't do this, you know?
Sure. And there are people who say that is a valid, emotional reaction is a valid way to evaluate candidates.
Right.
There is intrinsic value in trusting your intuition and your emotions on that.
It's more complicated though, because you like the surgeon, he's a really nice guy, but if you've heard his reputation in terms of skill based or leadership for politician, if that's on low level, even though I might have a gut reaction, I really like this guy, I'm not gonna vote for him. Because nothing will get done.
Good point. Another reason is the one issue voters. We know that abortion is often a one issue, and I have a relative like that too. she says, I'll hold my nose to Trump's behavior, but he's right on the one issue that I care about. And so it's amazing that one issue can drive an entire decision to vote on that. And then there are biases on gender, race, and religion. They say that people also do that based on gender. I won't vote for a woman. She couldn't become president and handle it. Race, I wouldn't vote for a black person. It's just not proper thing to do. And religion, wouldn't vote for a Catholic or a Muslim or a Methodist. 'Cause I don't like them for whatever reason. But I didn't find research on how much of that really still drives people's decisions. I would imagine that it's less than it was in previous generations. JFK is the first Catholic president.
And the Pope didn't run the country.
What, Grant?
The Pope did not run the
The
country.
Pope did not run the country. They thought JFK would take orders from the Pope. And
They don't even talk about it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. James,
Yeah, it occurs to me that we're missing the real bedrock thing. What's the purpose of government? What's the purpose of elected officials? Because I think to draw one contrast, character versus competence is a different question to ask if you're talking about a state representative versus the president of the United States.
how so? How are they different, James?
Well, the state representative can pass state laws.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at the number of people that think the president is capable of passing legislation.
Yeah.
And what baffles me, I don't get it really, because people that are otherwise reasonably intelligent say the president messed up because he didn't keep this promise, and going back to Grant.
It's called an executive order.
Yeah.
Going back to Grant's point, the president can only keep promises if Congress functions.
Uh-huh. And the example recently was Biden just signing executive order on the immigration
Yes.
issue after saying that Congress should have done that, and he tried to get them to do that, but so then he resorted to the immigration order.
Yes.
But that kind of muddies the water, doesn't it? They don't have, president have complete legislative power, but he has some called an executive order. So
Well, it's not a law. The
Right.
executive order is not the law.
can be overturned by the next president.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There's also, many feel that that executive order will get turned over by the courts, but it'll take time.
That's the problem.
Good point. Okay.
There's another
Do you-
question.
Oh, I was
Yeah,
just gonna
fully.
say that if I don't trust someone that's in a leadership position, then it provides chaos. So I am looking at a candidate who I will trust and their character, and I believe that they will do what's best for all of us. That's what I'm looking for.
But what if that candidate is showing signs of frailty?
Is a person Friday night also saying that he has dementia and on and on and on, and I don't see that at all.
I understand. I just throw that out.
Oh, I know. I know that too.
By the way, not to digress, but this person also said that Napoleon did several bad things in Europe during World War II.
Yeah.
During World-
Good
Good question. Okay, I want to, go ahead, Lena, and then I want to give Ron a chance to talk about it.
Oh, we can.
Want to?
I think character is really important. The other piece that goes with character and trust is I think we need to continue to remember that no matter who, they're not going to mirror completely what we each of us think. But if we can look at them and know that they're trying to do the best that they can.
Yes.
With the information that they have, then I think we've got to let that go. We've got to let them do their thing.
I agree with that 100%. Because, I was an assistant coach with a real good friend of mine who was the head coach. And I agreed with him 90% of the time on his decisions of coaching and so forth. Okay, 90%, that's pretty good, but there's a 10% I think, oh boy, should you have done that, you know, that type of thing. So we'll never agree 100% on,
Right.
even if they're the best friend, if you're 50-50, then
Pretty good.
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Today, that's right. Okay, let me throw out another question too that Vicky brought up, party line voting. I'm not sure if today it's as common as it used to be in generations past. But I would hope that today people would be more analytical in choosing each candidate on their own merits. But who here has seen that or has relatives or friends that are pretty much party line voters?
Yes.
Steve, how do you do that in the primary?
Yeah, we were talking about that.
You can.
You can't really under today's rules so much, can you?
But in the primary, then all these other things that we've been talking about come into play.
Character comes in then.
Yes, okay.
I
Norley.
think about, we're all intelligent people and we're making decisions based on information. And what if that information is disinformation, misinformation, generated by AI, all these things, it's like, how do you wade through some of these sources of information to find out is it true or not? And then you end up doing, going down a rabbit hole of like, oh my gosh, you have to investigate this, investigate that. I just think it's so much harder
Yes.
to understand, well, is this valid information?
Right.
Right.
Very
True.
Too much.
We've got about 12 minutes left. Jim.
I'll take the whole point. One thing that we haven't talked about is the sources of information that we use for making decisions. And we have become so heavily dependent on the 24-hour media that is made up of very, very sophisticated wordsmiths that can report the same story, but dependent upon which slant you want to deliver it, which one you want to advocate, they can substitute certain verbs, certain words, certain adjectives that describe things, and will have the totally different feel.
Yeah.
And this is where most people are getting their information to make decisions. You can watch the MSNBC and turn over to Fox News and hear them reporting the same story. And it's a total different, different attitude.
Yes.
Slant. And I think that's a real flaw in our system. There needs to be more. I think probably PBS is better, but I'm not sure about that. But I wonder if there's some way that we could get more editing as to how the news is reported to us.
Good point. The one I'm thinking of, Jim, is the blue book, the election blue book that comes out. It has the description of like the ballot issue, then it has pros and cons and the cost of them. I thought that was very good. One of
And I
the,
think that's really good as far as ballot issues, as far as amendments and things like that. But as far as candidates, they don't have anything in there about candidates. There's
They're about the judges and stuff.
Well.
where we have to do our own research.
A week or so ago, I saw a video of Biden being led off the stage by President Obama. And then I watched another news and it said that was generated by AI. What do I believe?
Exactly.
I don't know what to believe.
Anything can be manipulated.
It's crazy. I don't know how you do it.
I'm like the blind man and the elephant.
Yes.
What am I saying?
Everything is a tree stump, unless you do diligence, and it's very difficult.
Well,
That's why we have to question everything today.
Chief.
Well,
Yes, go ahead.
I enjoy watching Bill Maher most of the time.
Yeah.
And he was telling this last Friday, and they mentioned this, that the Republicans had put several different, 4 different pictures and videos of what Trump was doing that was out of context, which really influenced you because he looked frail and he didn't know what he was doing. And I
That
just.
Trump or was that?
No, I know,
Biden?
he was Biden that way.
Biden.
Pardon, yes, Biden. And I just found that so interesting.
Yeah.
Because I usually don't listen to Fox or other media like that, but I thought, wow. And I think it's only going to get worse as we go on with AI.
Yes.
Yes, you're right.
Sad world today. Okay, Ann, and then I'm gonna ask our Zoomers again if they'd like to comment.
I'm thinking this about right now, till election time, which is coming up pretty close. Stop watching news.
Stop. Okay. Huh?
Because I couldn't agree more that there's one side that they're bringing in the AI and they're bringing in videos that can be, what do they call it, stop. There's a word for it.
Technology.
Editing.
So I agree. I've
Fake
done the same
videos.
thing. I watch what you would call the liberal stations and I watch the Republican
Good.
stations. And I compare them both and I find what I perceive to be a lot of lying. Both parties.
Mhm.
So why don't we do ourselves a favor? Just stop watching. the news.
Well, you're getting
We
opinions.
know as much as we need to know
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, you're getting opinions. You're not getting facts. You're
Exactly.
getting someone's opinion
Exactly.
on something and
Getting propaganda meant to appeal to a certain base. That's right. Zoomers, any comments on any of this we've been talking about? Ann, yes, go ahead.
League of Women Voters is another really good source. I have arranged for somebody from the league to come to our United Methodist Women, United Women of Faith now, meeting for the last 4 to 5 years. Attendance got up to 50 people. Last time it was only 20. Granted, it wasn't a presidential race, but still local, issues are really, really important. And I think people forget about. Local candidates are just as much as important to look into and to decide. Also, I think we need to spread the word to vote. We touched on it a little bit. I think, it's appalling how little, we vote in the United States. Our daughter was in Australia for a year on a work visa for about 10 years ago. And I don't know if they still do it, but Australians are fined $60 if they don't vote. And I don't know whether to get League of Women Voters again because attendance was down so low, but they present pro and con, and also they present especially the ballot issues that we don't know too much about. They always go over those. So if there's enough interest, I'll do it. But, when there's only 15, 20 people that showed up last time, I don't want to waste their time.
How do we collect those fines?
How do they collect the fines?
I don't know. I'll have to ask my daughter. I'll get back with you.
Get in the
Directly
mail.
into your bank.
I think they'd have a better return if they offered to pay them something.
Yes, questioningly.
That's a good question. How could we increase the turnout, especially in the midterm elections? It's like 40% in midterm elections.
$100 that'll cover you.
Exactly.
Just don't vote.
Sorry.
Somebody's got more money to buy them off.
Okay.
What about
Our
another
system.
country like Russia during Hillary, during that election?
Oh, yeah.
And they were found that they did fool with computers and whatnot, so.
Oh, the election interference, of course.
How do we know
It's,
that that's not gonna happen? That's not, they're gonna
assume
try.
they are going to try, of course. Yep. It's a crazy new world of elections and voting systems and everything. Okay. Any other thoughts on voter behavior? Does anybody talk to their kids? Do our kids and grandkids vote?
Oh, yeah.
Are they interested in that these days? Yours are?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
I think more college age kids are getting involved. That's my take on it. I have three that are in college. They've changed, they've turned their head around. I haven't influenced them. I try not to say anything.
What do they,
It's really difficult.
what are their issues, Ann? Is it climate change and what? What do they say?
Disinformation.
Disinformation.
Basically, that's what they're feeling is controlling this country.
Okay.
Old people running.
They're mad at. Becky says they're mad old white people are running the country. Yeah, okay.
I read in the New York Times that for this election cycle, unaffiliated voters will be the deciding factor. And I don't even think about it. And the prediction is that those guys will be the ones who are.
Yeah, we talk so much about Democrats versus Republicans, but like in Colorado, the independents are way more than either of the other parties. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
silently needing to vote.
I think what's good about that is that if you're independent, you get both the Republican and the Democrat ballots. And that's really neat, I think.
Yes, I agree. Jim,
I have a great worry in this election cycle about the use of artificial intelligence.
Oh, yes.
And especially with the timing of it, because I think there are ways that you could ferret it out, but I'm afraid that things can be plugged in at the last minute that will impact the results and may turn the tide, and especially with some people who are running and some parties who are running who are very unscrupulous and don't have any problem with doing the worst bad things.
oh, you're talking about computer hacking into the election systems and changing?
They were having videos of Biden, and that the way they were editing them made him look like he was doddering.
Sure.
Yes.
And that is things that they can do, doctor things up, that can change very radically in very short periods of time. Change people.
Oh, change public perception. Yeah, okay.
Boom or
Yes.
which
Yes.
is.
Mhm. It's like an arena devoid of moral competency.
Can't we go back to the 1950s?
Steve says, let's go back to the 1950s.
No.
Yeah.
We're down to the last couple minutes here. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of the 1950s and 60s, let's keep this thought in mind, because maybe in pipe dream, this may come back. Remember Senator Ted Kennedy and Senator Orrin Hatch worked together a great deal, hammered out bills and things that helped the country and got them passed in Congress. We don't have that kind of Congress anymore. Nothing happens. Although I think National Peach Month is gonna be this week, so I have something done. But anyway, I mean, if there is no cooperation, and I would love to see to fix to inform the up and coming generation. Start teaching civics, teach the Constitution, let them know how important it is to participate. And if you don't like either candidates, hold your nose, because one of them is going to be in office.
Right.
Get that point across. I don't know what people can understand that, participate. And I just think that that's some things that we need to fix, and that would help it on a local level.
Well, Reagan and Tip O'Neill used to fight tooth and nail, and afterwards, they would be walking down the hall laughing about a joke and this and that because they were good people.
Yeah,
And the same thing with Gingrich and Clinton. They hammered out a deal.
I don't see any hammering out of any deal.
They're just hammering. They're getting, they got it done.
Compromise is a bad word to say.
Many people have my way or the highway.
My way or the highway. That's right. We're out of time today. Thank you for a good discussion. Great.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Amen. Thank you, everybody.